Alright guys, well it's time for another episode of Bus Stop Blogs where I give you a recap of the week during my half-mile walk from the bus stop to the iron yard. So this week has been an interesting one for sure. It's felt like a long week. Yesterday we received some very unfortunate news that the iron yard will no longer be doing business after this class ends. And so our class wraps up on October 13th. After that, the Iron Yard Dallas will not exist. And the Iron Yard as a whole, nationwide, will not exist after all the classes wrap up. So they're not taking any more admissions for future classes. Whatever classes are happening right now will finish out, and then it's going to be it for the Iron Yard. They've been around for 4 years, and it seems that they've been pretty successful. I know a lot of Iron Yard grads who are in the web developer field, who have careers, and so anyway, that's that. The good news, I guess, is that we have an awesome team at the Iron Yard Dallas. Caitlin, our campus director, Eric and Doug, the teachers, Colin, the student engagement staff member, and Nikki, the TA. They've all been wonderful, and they're sticking it out. They're not just packing up and leaving because of this. So that's very relieving. And Caitlin assured us. Caitlin is the campus director, and she assured us that, even after October 13th, she'll still help us with our job search in any way that she can, even though she won't be an employee of the Iron Yard. So we're very grateful for that. So anyway, I don't think it will be the worst thing ever, but it's certainly not great. It's not great for the Iron Yard. It definitely has a family feel to it, and so it's never good to see something like this happen. So anyway, enough about that. Let me kind of give you a rundown of the rest of the week. We're wrapping up front end this week, so we at the beginning of the week we were doing things like HTTP requests and using Ajax, and that's been pretty cool. You can leverage APIs that way. We did that for like a day as far as like the traditional doing like the XML HTTP request, and then after that we started doing using fetches and promises, and so that's a much better way to do it. It's much cleaner, and yeah, it's easier to read, and it's less code to write. So anyway, we've been doing that. That's been pretty cool. There was one assignment on, I think Tuesday or something, where we had to use an API for like a recipe API, like referencing a recipe database, and the endpoint that we were using was really slow. So fortunately, because I've been studying Node, I was able to do my project using Node, still using that same URL, but it was so much faster, which was awesome. So that was kind of a cool feeling, getting to build something a different way to get a better solution. So definitely with the the help of the instructors. That wasn't my idea to use Node, but I was able to because of what I've been learning. So still learning Node, not done with it. It's getting harder. I've been studying some user authentication, where that's like setting up the website so that someone can log in with the username and password, and then as a result have access to different parts of your site. And so that's been a lot harder than everything else I've done with Node and Express so far. So still working through that. I'm trying to just build and rebuild apps so I can get the process of setting up user authentication kind of to muscle memory, and to really understand the ins and outs of it. So been working on that this week. And then I went to a Node meetup 2 days ago. So that was pretty cool. It was kind of a bunch of coding challenges. And it was fun, but I think I'm not sure. I think that a couple of the tests that we had to check our code against might have had some errors. So, because when we ran tests on our own, things would work. So I don't know. Maybe we just don't know what we're doing enough yet when it comes to Node. So, but it was fun. Got to meet some cool people, and then the latter half of this week, we've kind of been just reviewing front end because we're wrapping up front end. We're starting back end on Monday. And so what we've also been doing, some of us, about half the class, Eric has been taking and giving us kind of supplemental front end instruction, doing things like sprites and canvas. If you're not familiar with either of those, sprites, dealing with sprite images, it's basically like, imagine you had a grid, like one big image that was a grid of a bunch of small images, and then you kind of just focus on those pieces of small images and you change it around to kind of create the effect of animation. It's really interesting. It's hard to explain. It's best if you see it happen. So anyway, so we've been doing that. That's been pretty cool. And then I kind of built something out with like an archer and a cat, which didn't end well for the cat, but it's okay. And then we did something with Canvas, which is an HTML element that basically allows you to do animation on the page. You can draw on the page. You can, as I say, you can animate. You can make shapes. It's pretty cool. Canvas and SVG are kind of the two main ways that you might deal with doing some kind of like animation or something like that. So the cool thing about Canvas that you can do with Canvas that you can't do with SVG is putting images into Canvas, and then what's really cool is you can take just the image of whatever you're working on and you can make it grayscale, make it black and white. So it involves a lot of math, but basically you take the RGB values and add them all up and divide them by 3, and then reassign that value to red, green, and blue, and it gives you grayscale, which is just genius. So that was something that our instructor taught us. So I thought that was brilliant. Anyway, something I might play around with later on down the road if I'm doing anything with Canvas. Our weekly project this week was to use the iTunes API to build a website where you could search for search for like an artist or a song or an album, and you'll get a grid of results. And I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. Basically, you get your grid of results. Each image on the page is the album cover image, and when you hover over that album cover, a little play button shows up on top of the image, and press that. It starts playing the 30-second sample that iTunes gives you, and then when you press it, it turns into a pause button, and you can pause it or just let it run out. It's pretty cool. I'm really proud of it. I was able to knock it out in a couple hours. So far, at least with the front end stuff, every time we've had a weekly project, I've been able to finish it in just maybe 3 or 4 hours. So I've been really excited about that. That's allowed me to use my weekend to continue my supplemental studies. So I'm really liking that. Speaking of supplemental studies, I think I'm gonna kind of put the node thing aside because we're about to start on that in class. I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty decent spot to be prepared for what we're going to learn in class. And so now I'm gonna start learning React and Java. Not totally decided on what I'm gonna do at the end. I'm like 90% sure it's gonna be Java, but I want to get out of here knowing React and Java pretty well. So I'm gonna start learning both of them. And then if I end up doing Java at the end, I'll just keep learning React while I'm learning Java, because I want to be able to do both. I know Java is really powerful, and so who knows. I've started my job searching, so I applied for a few jobs last night. Not necessarily in Texas. Most of them are, but obviously, if you're at all in the web development community, you know that California is kind of the place for web developer jobs. So applied for a couple places out there, and a couple of other states as well. So I'm keeping my options open, and yeah, I'm ready to start working as soon as I'm done here. So anyway, I'm at the Iron Yard. So thanks for watching. I will see you next week.